Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Ford,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bullock,
Here.
Councilmember Amador, present. Councilmember Teeter,
Here.
Councilmember Carson, Councilmember Diaz,
Here.
Councilmember McEldowney, here. Councilmember Elliott,
Present.
Councilmember Douglas.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And for the record, we're all here this evening. I'd first like to start off by asking everybody to please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask the staff to please pass the microphone around, allow the audience to introduce themselves.
Danny Thomas.
Betty Thomas.
Reba Droder.
Tom Green.
Thank you.
Brian Beerweiler.
Terry Smith.
Ronnie Story.
Arvis Thomas.
Linda King. Christy Douglas.
Tony Johnson.
Dottie Johnson.
Zoe Schnagle.
Michelle Claymore, ED Director.
Maria DeAndre, Public Works.
Kathy Blakeman, Human Resources.
Michael Scanlon.
Great. Thank you all for being here this evening. I want to apologize for the executive session of the URA running a little later than anticipated. First item on the agenda is going to be citizen communication, and I did have the list up here. Nobody has signed up, but I want to ask, is there anybody in the audience who came specifically to talk to the council about an item for their 3-minute opportunity before I move forward with the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go right into the agenda. First item on the agenda is going to be approval of the minutes. October 17th, 2016. I'm open for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of October 17th. Go ahead, Mr. Teeter.
Move to approve the minutes for October 17th.
Thank you. Mr. Bullock?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of October 17th, 2016. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Now we need to take care of November 7th, 2016. I'm open for a motion to allow Councilmember McEldowney to abstain from voting on the minutes of November 7th because of his excused absence. Mr. Bullock.
Move to Congressman. Councilman McEldowney abstain.
Mr. Amador.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to allow for that abstention. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Now I'm open for a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 7th. Councilwoman Elliott.
Move to approve the meeting minutes of November 7th, 2016.
Thank you, Mr. McEldowney. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McEldowney, you can't. Mr. Bullock.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 7th. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Brings us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that are routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial. They are presented to council for a single motion and vote. Any member of council may ask to remove a specific item for further discussion and a separate vote. Tonight there are 8 items listed under the consent agenda. Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item off of the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none. I'm open for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Mr. Bullock.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Mr. Teeter,
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Will the city attorney please read the titles of the consent agenda?
Resolution 2017-02, resolution approving City 2016 Highway User Tax Fund HUTF report. Resolution 2017-07, resolution approving modifications to economic development incentives for Midrail Real Estate LLC and Incel Steel West LLC. Resolution 2017-08, resolution approving grant of easement to South Adams County Water and Sanitation District. AN-244-16, an ordinance approving and accomplishing the annexation of contiguous unincorporated territory described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof, located at 8799 Brighton Road, Commerce City, Colorado. Ordinance 2119, an ordinance amending sections 9-3302 and 9-3303 of the Commerce City Revised Municipal Code relating to the licensing and regulation of outdoor vendors. Z-938-17, an ordinance rezoning from Adams County I-1 to Commerce City C3, the property described in Exhibit A and attached hereto and made a part hereof, located at 8799 Brighton Road, Commerce City, Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the City of Commerce City, Colorado to reflect said rezoning. Z-941-17, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the City of Commerce City, Colorado for rezoning to PUD Zone District and approving a PUD Zone document for the property described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof, bound by East 64th Avenue to the north, East 62nd Avenue to the south, Holly Street to the east, and Highways 2 and 85 to the west, Commerce City, Colorado. V-86-17, an ordinance vacating a right-of-way on the property described on Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof, consisting of a portion of Dahlia Street, City of Commerce City, Colorado.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. The titles have all been read. I'm open for a roll call vote. For the record, consent agenda has been approved unanimously this evening by the City Council. I don't know what's going on up here, but this is beeping like crazy, and it's still not working. Okay? All right, moving on in the agenda. We have a presentation this evening from the Commerce City Business and Professionals Association, and I would ask their representatives that are going to give that presentation to please come forward. Hello, Reba and Christy. Come on forward, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Turn it on. There you go.
Is this on now? Okay. I've had complaints. Believe it or not, people watch you. And I've had complaints when I've been here before that they cannot hear me. So,
Or anybody else.
or I guess anybody else either. So I'm Reba Droder, and I'm the Vice President of the Commerce City Business and Professional Association. And I'm really pleased to be here. Christy?
Yes. And I'm Christy Douglas, and I'm the president of the Commerce City Business and Professional, and thank you so much for having us here tonight. We're really pleased to be here.
So I'm going to make this very painless, because at the end of this presentation, I have the best pictures for you. You're going to love this, I promise. So our current board members are Christy Douglas is the president. Here, let's do this. How does it work?
Point it.
Christy? Okay, go ahead. Me, I'm the vice president. Dale Mingleton from the Adams 14 Foundation, he's our treasurer. He's the executive director there. And he does send his regrets, as does Matthew LaCrue, director. He's a director, but he's a consultant. He has his own business. Councilman Rick Teeter, he's a director. And Terry Smith, back here. She's our past president, and she's from Stout Street Foundation. We have 2 director vacancies to be filled this week, and interviews are tomorrow. And we have far more applicants, good candidates, than we have positions for, so I'm very excited about that. Next. So in answer to your question, what is the CCBPA? Now, of course, all of you know who the Commerce City Business and Professional Association is, but there are probably a lot of people in Commerce City that do not know us or don't know how we started. Probably even some folks that work in the city, some folks that have been here just a short while. So the Commerce City Business and Professional Association was actually the brainchild of Shirley Leeper. And she was a Commerce City businesswoman who was a leader, and she was certainly a woman ahead of her time. She's passed away, and her integrity and a lot of the things that she did still linger, and they still have legacy. Some of the things the city does were founded by Shirley and this group. And I can speak to this because I was at the earliest meetings with them. So she partnered with civic leaders in the early 1980s for the purpose of bringing a quality and safe environment to the children, families, and businesses of Commerce City. It was also established to encourage new businesses and to bring all parties to the table. While it started in the Derby area, as that at the time was considered downtown Derby, downtown Commerce City, these same leaders and others that they recruited participated in helping to campaign for the annexation of the lands in the north to help build the vibrant city we have today. They actually had a lot of vision. And Mayor Ford, your father, was one of those people. In fact, he was one of the main ones. And he was also one of the Citizens of the Year for this Commerce City Business and Professional Association. And we still respect all of the work that he did. It was formally filed as a nonprofit on August 29th, 1991. So like about 10 years later. So we are a business and professional association that has a principal voice in business in this community. We are a very diverse group of businessmen and women and private citizens devoted to promoting the economic stability of our community. And at the end of this little page, you're going to see that there is something special that was built into this group. Those interested in promoting the prosperity of the city are who we serve. Our mission statement, the association's mission is to serve the Commerce City community through the promotion, encouragement, and development of local business. The Commerce City Business and Professional Association accomplishes this through strategic partnerships, nurturing and serving current and prospective members, growing and strengthening relationships. And here's the part that's so special. We give back to the nonprofit community. We maintain a pulse on the economic development and opportunities because this is only healthy for everybody to be involved in this. So here's some of our past presidents. They go back to 1991 only because we didn't really keep all that good records the first few decade or so. But you can see in this list are some tremendously fine people that have lived and worked in Commerce City. And I'm very proud of all the people that have worked here. So next. So all of these people, these volunteers, these past presidents, secretaries, treasurers, members, they've all been volunteers. It's an all-volunteer organization, and members include government entities, elected officials, nonprofits, businesses and corporations, professionals, and individuals. We also include senior citizens. We want the input of all, and high school and college students. We actually have free memberships for them. So some of our events, sponsorships, and activities for this year included, and this is really a long list. I'm not going to read it all to you. It's unbelievable, actually, to see it on paper. It's 2 pages long. But one of the first one that you see at the top is we participate in all Leadership Commerce City events. I was with Dale Mingleton, one of the 2 creators of the Leadership Commerce City, And instead of making it just I call them bless us for and no more groups, we set out to get a committee of people and groups from all over the city and got their input on how we should do leadership. And Dale Mingleton is the driving force behind Leadership Commerce City, and we have had spectacular candidates, and we had our first class was last year, and the purpose is so that anyone can learn how to be a leader in Commerce City. We go to South Adams Water, the fire district. It's a very serious commitment. It's at least 4 hours the first Friday of every month, and a couple of times during the year, it's all day. It's very serious, and it's spectacular, so I'm very proud of that. Yeah, we have graduates here. And yes, so some of the other things, we love the Commerce City Economic Development. We were able to help out a little bit there last year. But some of the bigger things that we did are on the next page. We did attend many ribbon cuttings and presented cakes for them and all kinds of special things for businesses. But the thing that I want to talk about that makes us really special and makes you really special for being a part of who we are is, for instance, the Eagle Street Halloween celebration and spaghetti dinner. So why in businesses from all over Commerce City who had booths, and we did a spaghetti dinner, and we thank you South Adams Fire District, and we had a big dance, and they had costumes, and these kids came by the droves. I don't know how many were there, but it was a little more than they had. The fire department came to check us out. And one of the other big things that we did is we had a really great after-hours meet and greet sponsored by United Power to introduce the new United Power CEO, Daryl Shriver, and the Adams 14 new superintendent, Javier Abrego. So those are some of the things that we've done, plus many others that I didn't list. So 2017 will be a very active year for us. We're going to keep up with some of the same things. Our morning board meetings will be held once a month at the ESS of Adams 14. We have a fifth Thursday membership meeting, which will be at a variety of really interesting different businesses this year. And continuing our participation with Leadership Commerce City, all of our sponsorships, and of course, Winterfest and the 2017 Community Christmas Basket Outreach. Also, we'll be getting a new website that's being built for us. So now, here's a few pictures. You'll recognize some of you in these pictures. There's one is at the economic breakfast. The one on your left is the first class of Leadership Commerce City. And you know, when I was on council, I thought about that for many years of having this, and I'm so thrilled that it exists now. There's some of our other meetings that we had. Next slide. And here you see the kids dancing. We had what was that?
We had a thriller contest.
Oh yeah, we had a thriller contest at the Halloween thing.
They played Michael Jackson's Thriller, and I thought that these kids wouldn't know what to do. Well, they must have Googled it, and
they were all
they
had
the moves down.
They practiced it, and it was unbelievable. And then we have that was our fifth year of Congressional Day at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal National Wildlife Refuge. So and up in the corner on the right-hand side, we also sponsor the Adams City High School homecoming parade, and we judge their all of their floats and everything that they've done. And these guys also came totally prepared. They stopped in front of us. They did dancing. And if you weren't at that parade last year, you should come this next year. They are fantastic. So what I want to talk about, oh yes, this was at the Commerce City Historical Society, and they at their big gala, Gene Klein Awards event, and they allowed us to present Terry Smith, who's here tonight, with the Citizen and Business of the Year, and she was totally surprised at that. So we thank the Historical Society for allowing us to surprise her in that fashion. So what I really, really came to talk about was the 18th annual Winterfest that we just had. And I want to thank the council. I want to thank city manager. I want to thank members of the Commerce City staff for entrusting us to do this. Here you see the firemen working with Adams City High School students, putting trees together. We actually had 2 trees for each elementary school. This included 27J. This was a true partnership between bringing in 27J and Adams 14 together. And then for the middle and high schools, we had 1 tree that we gave away, and those were selected very carefully by members of their own school. Next slide. So you see, Anythink Library came, and they were all dressed up. We had a sugar plum fairy, and they read to the kids. We had a contest, who had the best pajamas. It was pajamas, pancakes, and Santa. And we had, you can see the crafts, the type of crafts that we had in the lower right-hand corner. These were spectacular crafts. And down the hall, you can see we were packed out. Next slide. So here we are. We had wonderful Brian from the fire district and Maria Zubia from Kids First organized putting all of our goodie bags together, and we had wonderful things in them. We thank McDonald's and all the people that contributed to that. And we did 1,500 bags. Next slide.
And that was all 4 McDonald's that are in Commerce City.
Yes.
So we have
both.
4 here.
Mm-hmm. So before we show you these other pictures, this was a very serious thing. So we had our Winterfest, and then we had names of families that were really in need at Christmas. We had a donor, one of the staff of Adams 14, and his wife gave us $1,000. So I've done food baskets in Commerce City for Christmas for many decades now, and we were trying to figure out how to make the schools each contributed certain items. Each school, they would there would be 200 cans of corn from one school. Another school brought in 200 of whatever. So we were trying to figure out how to do the best we could. Maria Zubia came up with the idea. She said, let's go over and talk to Linda King from the Adams County Food Bank and see what she says. So we showed up early Thursday morning with knowing we had all of these people that needed food. Now, why do they need food? Because while we're having wonderful Christmas, that 2 weeks where my grandkids are off skiing and whatever else they can think of, and we've got food all over. People keep bringing us baked goods from our neighborhood. They don't have breakfast and lunch at school. It's a very serious thing. I've actually been to many homes where the heat's not even on when I've paid visits in the wintertime. So I was very concerned, what were we going to do? Well, wonderful Linda and her entire crew, her volunteers and staff, she said, you know what, I can take that money that you have and I can turn it into something really amazing. So I'm thinking a box like this, and we arrange for her to have our money, and she turned it into something beyond belief. Next slide. Yes, produce, everything that you could possibly imagine. Really, enough to feed them for 2 weeks. This is a typical basket. They got to go around and shop. We had eggs. I will say that a number of them fell in my arms weeping. This has never happened before here. This is what true partnerships will do. And upstairs, we had Santa Shop, so they could go upstairs, and that was run by Jesse Martinez. And we had plenty of toys for everyone.
And thank them for filling the gap.
Yes, and thank you for filling the gap on the what else we needed. We now know how to do this better than ever before. And it was just wonderful when we all left. And we had enough because we had gifts or cards from Suncor that we had a number of families, believe it or not, that are actually homeless right now in Commerce City. And we were able to give them money so they could actually go buy hot food at King Soopers. So.
And the Adams County Sheriff Department.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I forgot that. The Adams County Sheriff's Department, we owe them a great gratitude because besides this, each family got a $12.50, I think that's what they were worth, coupon to go buy whatever else they needed at King Soopers. This was, for the people that were there, you know, we really served a lot of people. So now I want to thank the volunteers. Right up there front and center is the City Council of Commerce City. Commerce City Police Department did so much for us all year long. I can't even begin to thank them enough. Community Reach, Anythink Library, Brian McBroom, Community Uplift Partnerships, Commerce City Historical Society, United Power. Just look at those names. Adams 14 Foundation, School District 27J, Adams 14 School Board. Betty and Danny Thomas here, when we said come and see Santa, they gave us $100. Dr. Chris Fiedler. Look at the people. Next slide. Yes, all of these people showed up to help in one way or another with Winterfest or this community outreach. There's teachers in there from 27J. You can see all sorts of people. Next slide. Yes, all of these people. And not only all of these people. The Adams 14 parent liaisons, the Adams 14 nutrition department knocked themselves out. And friends and family of all of these people came. And I'd like to especially thank the anonymous husband and wife who donated, just out of the goodness of their hearts, $1,000 to feed. That turned into, I figured it out. It's something like, we took that $1,000 and it turned into $10,000 at the very least. Because I know when I go to the grocery store, I know and I buy produce. So I want to thank all of you. And I want to thank all of you. And before we have you come up, because we have a little treat for you, some folks had to leave. Michelle, there's a disc in there that's got pictures. It's I'll go back one though. It started at 9. This is winter. This is before. This is 7:30, a quarter till 8. They came to line up to see Santa. Go ahead. So here is Santa's scene right here. We have the wonderful cadets, and this was wonderful. We gave away, I don't know, was it Rick?
It was 1,200 pancakes.
1,200 pancakes?
1,200.
1,200 pancakes on a stick, and they turned out to be huge. We had hot chocolate. We had cookies. This is Kathy Struey, the South Adams Women's Association, which is no longer in existence, but was some of the finest women I've ever known. She is standing in for them because they did the cookies for many decades for the Winterfest. And
Over 700 cookies donated.
yeah, we had over 700 cookies donated. Go ahead. So here's our gingerbread house. This is Crystal as well. This is our gingerbread house contest, and it went very well. Go ahead. Okay, so here they're coming in. Now they're getting ready. Okay, everybody's outside because we found out Santa was on his way. We lined the halls with the trees. These are our craft. We had lots of craft tables sponsored by businesses. And here they come. Here's Santa and Mrs. Claus come on the fire truck. And everybody's very excited. Let me tell you, we had kids lined up, kids in the hall, and all these kids outside. And when he arrived, they about had a heart attack.
They sure did.
Because the real Santa came. And it took him about 20 minutes to get down the hall through all the kids. So while you're looking at these, flashing through these pictures, here's what I want you to think about. It's one thing to do business, and it's one thing to have your names all over buildings. But when you can touch the lives of children and families in the way that we did this year, you have really accomplished something. You as leaders have touched the lives of, I can't even guess how many families.
And we brought this together.
And this is the beginning of the two sides of the city, not being two sides of the city anymore, but being a collaborative effort that we are one city. And when you bring people into an area that they're not sure about, and they find out that, oh my gosh, all these people are just like us, then you have a real city. And so I just want to thank you. And we had choirs from 4 different schools, and 27J was, Second Creek was one of them. And each teacher, I don't know how many hours they spent with these kids because they had fantastic programs. So I thank you very much. And while this is clicking through, there's Tom. He's exhausted, but look, he's got on his pajamas. I had on mine.
And I did. Steve did.
So I'd like to invite those that are here that participated. The list is very long, but only a few are here. And we'll stand in for those. And we will be giving everyone a certificate at their place of business. Look how many people were in the hallway there. So here's what we know. We know that these weren't the babies, these weren't the teenagers, these weren't the choirs. We know at that event we gave away 1,200 goodie bags without all of those other people. So thank you so much. And everybody, would you please come up so we can thank you? Christy, what do you have for them?
Oh. I have hot chocolate for 2. So I have 2 cups and 2 packets of hot chocolate so that you don't have to drink alone.
So everybody that participated, please come up.
Get up, Sean.
Thomas's, yes.
Get up, Rick.
Yes, we thank you.
Paulo, get up.
And I promise Mr. Mayor and Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that next year we will fix the sound system so that you can say whatever you'd like to everybody. And I'd like to thank Crystal. She won a place in the contest. Of course, she's a wonderful baker, but she donated the money back to the food baskets.
Come on. JD? Andrew?
So come up.
Next year, everybody on the city council is going to do their own gingerbread house, and we're going to have a contest on our own. But I will be there.
Would you mind if they all took their? Would you mind if they took their picture with you?
Yeah, come on out. Come on.
I want to stand next to you, Councilman.
Here's Miss Terry. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is Linda King from the Adams County Food Bank. Bridget Grimm, treasurer of Adams County, came to help us. Now, because Santa had such a great time, he already sent me a note saying that he would not miss this for next year. So he's not penciled us in, he's put us down.
All right, y'all got to get a little bit cozier. A little bit cozier.
Now, I know the number one rule for having a picture taken as a politician is not to have a cup in your hand or a glass. So I will wait to pass out the hot chocolate cups until after we've had our picture taken. Reba, you better be in the front.
Reba, is this an automatic flash? Oh, awesome.
Please.
A professional photographer. Okay. Everybody smile. There you go. Your husband's calling you, so it didn't take the picture. I can't get back to your camera. Let me take one more with this.
Did you get one?
I don't think I did, because right when I pressed it,
That's all right. I don't mind not being.
it was like vibrating.
There it is. Everybody say cookies. Oh, yes. Okay, let me run right up there. Okay.
All right. Everybody yell, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. He's in?
So, ladies and gentlemen, and I can say this because I know lots of people and I know lots of children. Thank you very much and God bless you. And my prayer for you is that everything that you've given to these kids and these families be returned to you this year at least 1,000-fold.
What's left of this meeting, I would think.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I told Patty, though, it's not
And
gonna be him,
before,
but say it is.
before everybody leaves, I would like to say how great a partnership it's been with the CCBPA. And thank you for all of the events and everything that you do to help grow our community. You all do a wonderful job. Thank you to all the volunteers and all of the other business participants that are here and that have helped in the past. But all of the events are very special to our community, and we want you to continue doing what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's always great to see returning council members, Reba Drotar and Mr. Johnson, back in the building. You're always welcome. So thanks for being here. All right, we're going to move on in our agenda. Thank you very much. We'll move on in our agenda. We have administrative council business. I know we do have one item that I want to ask the attorney to bring up concerning the judge and the relief judge. Would you please?
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Judge Juarez advised that the substitute municipal judge, Tommy Crespin, has to step down from her post here as the substitute judge because she was appointed to be a district court judge with the county in the 17th Judicial District. So she can't serve us anymore, but it's a great opportunity for her. He intends to conduct a search for alternative recommendations to bring before council for approval by using the normal city hiring process, posting it through the city's employment portal, and bringing back one or two recommendations to have as a substitute for him when he's unavailable or has a conflict of interest. So if there weren't objections to that, he wanted to proceed with that and bring you back recommendations, hopefully by the next council meeting.
And I personally talked to the judge, and I told him that I thought it was best if he came to the council with a procedure on how he was going to make that replacement, because that is one of our employment is the judge. So I told him that I respected his process that he's put into place. Do you want us to take a vote on that, or just?
I believe unless there's an objection, he could follow through with that and bring you recommendations to review.
Does anybody have any objections to the process Judge Juarez is planning on following for a replacement for a backup judge? Seeing none, we'll move forward with that process, and we'll look forward to seeing the applicants once they're narrowed down. Is there any other administrative council business? And please remember, I can't tell when you guys push your lights, so that's not working tonight. Mr. Douglas?
Thank you. Last regular meeting, we approved the construction of Murphy Express over off of 88th and 76. Some residents were concerned about the current bus stop for RTD, and could we reach out to them to see where if they're gonna keep that bus stop nearby, if that's gonna move and stay on that side of the street, or what is the future of that RTD bus stop? Another concern that it's outside our city boundaries. It's on the corridor 120th in Peoria. It's a subdivision that is east of the 7-Eleven and the church up in that northern area. There's some residents that are asking, I guess, 2 lots down from the corner on the southeast side. Those are horse-type properties, and I believe that's in the city of Brighton. If we could reach out to them and ask them what the zoning is there. I guess 2 properties down, it's ended up being a trucking lot with big rigs, trailers going in and out at all times of the night. I know that's not Commerce City proper, but as neighbors, if we could reach out and find out exactly what is zoned for, if that business that's being operated, if it's within the property rights as far as what the zoning is.
All right. Thank you. Mr. McEldowney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is sort of a coming back to a topic we've discussed before, 96th and Chambers. I know we've talked previously about traffic monitoring and whether or not the intersection meets warrants for signalization. When we were talking about the potential for having construction traffic have to detour down Chambers, one of the things that we brought up was the fact that we lack protected turn lanes in either direction, and we're seeing at peak traffic times traffic building up or people cutting it very close to try and turn from southbound Chambers into the Frontera neighborhood to take kids to school, or folks trying to get out of there. You've got a daycare facility, preschool facility at the corner there as well. So during those peak travel times, folks dropping kids off, et cetera. And I've continued to see that appear to worsen. The other thing that I've begun to see, and I don't know how it hasn't been more obvious before, but I'm starting to see more and more traffic build up, queuing to go eastbound onto 96th from Chambers. And because we have such a narrow road there and we have a hard curb, people can't even cheat and try and use the shoulder to get westbound. So you have all traffic for both east and westbound 96th queuing. And tonight, as an example, at about 5:30, that traffic was back past the first turn into the neighborhood, which is like 91st, 92nd? I can't remember what that street is, the one that heads towards Badger Park, and then further back. So you had people who were getting frustrated, and I saw somebody start to go and try and cut around. And of course, we have a hard curb because it's a portion of a future roadway that's built there. So part one of my comments is, can we look at the possibility of creating an appropriate turn lane to allow for separate queuing of eastbound and westbound traffic at that intersection? I think if we could just allow, because what was happening is nobody could turn east because you had people queuing. The turn lane to get back onto Chambers from eastbound 96th was probably 10 cars long, which exceeds the depth of that turn lane. So we sort of had this compounding now happening where you've got the blind approach to that intersection. We have folks exceeding the capacity of that turn lane. And so really what's been running through my head is, do we need to look at a mini version of what we did with our Highway 2 strategy years ago, which was address the nodes? And are there ways to address some of the capacity without dealing with a full widening of that roadway, but looking at addressing some of the protected turning movements, which would, if you had, a split southbound east and west turn lanes, all the people that wanted to go west could have peeled out and gone west, and you would have had a reduced queue to go east, if that makes sense, right? Either way, that I think is part of it. The other thing that I'm seeing, and again, I don't drive 96th every day, but every time that I drive 96th at various times of day, I seem to see more and more people using Potomac. And I think it's due in part to the fact that we have signal at 104th and people are using Potomac southbound, and then they get to 96th and they can't get out because they're trying to go west and they're prevented from doing so. But I'm also seeing more people trying to leave 96th onto Potomac, and again, we have no protected decel turn lane there. And so what happens is, given the sight lines on that road, people try and make a turn, and what I'm often seeing are commercial type vehicles. So whether it's vans, trucks, et cetera, which have a exaggerated slow down in movement, and then we create challenges. So obviously we're not in a position to go solve for 96th capacity, but I would just ask that we look at some of those key points. I just fear that we know volumes are going to continue to increase, and without some level of minor steps. So if folks are okay with that, I'd like to ask staff to explore some options and at least come back and tell us what we might be able to do, if that makes sense. I don't know if anybody else has seen some of what I'm seeing in Opello. You live right there and probably see it more so than any of us.
All right, any other comments concerning the 96th Avenue issue with the loading? Mr. Douglas?
You just want to add that some of the additions are improvements that were made in the last week. But several people made comments on that has helped ease the drive through that area. And, I know we're still going to get a lot of snow coming our way and all that. And this is open till April. We just continue to work on those areas that have high pot ratios and to lessen the impact of vehicles. But just want to give a shout out to at least getting some of those issues solved now instead of later. So thank you.
I agree. Great job on helping to fix some of the problems. I'm excited about the lighting to get put in place, but people are starting to receive it a little better than what it was. Anyone else? All right. Any other council administrative business? Mr. Douglas.
I just have one more. I see that the contractor on that bridge at 96, and I see that it's the crushed stone. Or is that going to be replaced with concrete, or is that just going to be that crusher fine product?
Speaking of the addition of the bridge on Chambers,
Yes.
north of 104th, I think that's just a sub base that's going to go down on the bridge itself.
Thank you.
That was right. Yes, Councilmember Douglas. They're letting it settle.
Yep.
And so once it reaches, there's a certain specified time frame. I think I want to say between 7 and 10 days, then they'll pave it. Okay. So yeah, we're just in that period where we're letting it settle right now.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other administrative council business? Mr. Diaz.
First of all, thanks, Jason, for bringing up the 96th Avenue, because I know that was a concern of mine, too. Just a couple things. One, Maria, thank you to you and your public works staff for responding so swiftly to a citizen's concern regarding snow that was at the bus stops. I know I had received several phone calls on Friday regarding it. I got a nice thank you phone call today expressing their appreciation and how much easier it was for them to stand at the bus stops. And so thank you guys for monitoring that. The second thing that I do have, I was kind of talking about with City Manager McBroom a little bit today, is I would love to have some council support in bringing potential study session item to talk about drones, to have staff kind of look at drones. I know over the last several years I've seen incidents posted on social media pages of drones being a concern in our community in terms of an invasion of privacy. For the second time in the past month, my wife saw a drone hovering around our house when I wasn't home. One was when a frugal person actually stopped by to pick up something on our porch, and a drone followed this individual walking back to her car and told my wife, hey, did you know there's a drone hovering around? The most recent instance, which was quite disturbing actually, was on Sunday. I had gotten home from lunch at my parents' house. It was in the afternoon. And there was a drone that was hovering low enough where my wife had to stare down with it. It was in our backyard, basically staring it down with my wife. Long story short, after a few minutes, my wife moved to another part of the kitchen in which the drone followed her to that part, just kind of staring at the window. And so brief research I did on this thing called Google, I looked at there were some other instances throughout the country in which there were drones following and potential voyeurism. And I'm concerned that that's becoming a bigger concern than we would all like. For instance, there was one of this 19-year-old, I believe. She was in her bedroom window. She heard some humming, turned around, and saw some drones there. And I know we don't necessarily have regulations in terms of that, but that's something that I did want us to take a look at and perhaps for staff to bring forward to us at a future study session. I did talk to Senator-elect Dominic Moreno, and he did mention, I think it was in 2015, the House did look at it, and I think they approved 62-3, I think, in terms of a bill regarding drones. However, it eventually died, and I think the reason for that, understandably so, is the definition of whether the air can be considered private property. But I can honestly think that I'm sure that there's ways that we can kind of try to look at that and see what our options are. It really is a safety concern. I mean, my wife, she spends her days, she's at home. She runs a preschool out of our house, so there's constantly, on any given day, 6 kids kind of sitting at our house, and that's not counting the stay-at-home moms and the work-from-home moms who are in our area, as well as me being out of town last week, for example, of people monitoring when we're home, when we're not home, what we're doing, what our our patterns are in terms of when our house is occupied and when it's not occupied. So I do see a huge safety risk there, and so I just wanted to see if council will be supportive in bringing that as a study session item. Thank you.
Thank you. I know how to stop those from being around your house.
I do too.
Mr. McEldowney.
I was going to actually follow on with A. I'm in full support of supporting that. But second, I think the inference that the mayor makes is a valid piece of this conversation is what are the rights of an individual if you find a drone outside your window. I can see people with shorter fuses using various implements to take the drone out of the equation. And so the question then becomes, what happens if this thing, I mean, I see on social media all the time somebody saying, hey, would you keep an eye out for such and such a kind of drone? I lost it, right? And so these are people who claim to have been flying it at the park, and the wind gets it, or the battery dies, or whatever, and it ends up in somebody's backyard, and they're trying to find it. Well, the question with your example is, were they somewhere where they shouldn't have been, and they didn't have the ability to fly their way out of that location, and it went down? But it is a legitimate concern, and obviously we're not the only community facing it, but it would be good to explore what we can do, whether it's simply limited to communication or more. And I think that whole defense of home comes into play with people in this subject. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yep, looking forward to it. My concern is, if one is looking in your window and you take it out of flight.
Break it, you mean?
Yeah, is it property damage or because it's in your yard? I don't know what all those legalities are, but I'd sure like to know so that I can make sure I'm prepared for when one does come in my yard. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. So I think it would be good to make sure that we are not looking out just for ourselves, but for our community as to what you can and cannot do pertaining to drones looking in your bedroom window.
Or any window.
Or any window. Right. Or just in your yard, whatever. I don't know what all those parameters are, but I'm looking forward to finding out.
And Sean, I do want to add that I have absolutely nothing against drones. I think that they're absolutely lovely. They serve its purposes, and I've seen some great pictures taken out of it and from weddings and stuff. I think it's just when there's an invasion of privacy and it becomes a safety issue, that's kind of my big concern. And so I mentioned this to Brian, of now my wife has like 5 or 6 rocks sitting on our kitchen counter, and I told her take a picture first before she throws something. And then my concern with her was, I'm like, well, can you do me a favor? Can you at least try to miss? Because the last thing that I would want is like trying to figure out, is what Sean and Jason pointed out, is who's at fault based on the fact that it was on my property.
Admittedly, I don't know, I assume she's got a pretty good arm. What happens to the neighbor's window if she misses the drone? Right. Then you have a whole other problem. I think just one last example, you think about public pools, right? We have a pool in the Reunion neighborhood, any of these neighborhoods. So are people, flying around to investigate or just flying around? So
yeah, staff direction. Or see if we could
it
just
will
staff
bring
direction.
a whole new level of conversation about code enforcement if we have residents flying drones in people's backyards. So we want to be careful and make sure that we have appropriate laws that govern what you can and can't do. And I think it's a well-needed study session. Okay. Any other administrative council business? Seeing none. Reports, Mr. McBroom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did distribute a city manager update via email prior to the meeting tonight. We have an update on some Northern Range restaurants, an update on Councilwoman Elliott's concern about panhandling and camping near the King Soopers at 60th and Parkway, an update on Councilman Amador's concern about the railroad crossing on Vasquez south of 53rd. Councilman Amador also had some concerns about yellow light timing at 72nd and Highway 2, the new center left turn lanes on 72nd Avenue. We also have a public service announcement for board and commission vacancies. Adams County is sponsoring a summit for elected officials. The date is set February 17th from 9 to 2 p.m. at the Adams County Government Center. As soon as we have more information about an agenda, we'll share that, but it's intended to be a day of open dialogue amongst elected officials within Adams County. It's being modeled after a similar summit that occurred amongst communities in Jefferson County. And then finally, we do have some information on an issue brought to my attention by Mr. McEldowney on Saturday about malfunctioning train crossing arms at 96 and 104th in the UP. So it looks like it was a technical problem that the UP was able to address. But in the meantime, some good help from Commerce City police officers to keep traffic moving. Additionally, we've included this month's development report, and because we're in the legislative season, this week's edition of the legislative report. So please reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. McEldowney?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the county open house. I understand that our county commissioners are paid in full-time and operate during business hours, but 90% of the other elected officials in the community, be it school board members or otherwise, don't. Is there a reason that they're not doing this later in the day or at such a time where they would maybe increase the likelihood of participation, or is this by design?
Well, I don't think it's intended to exclude those who happen to work during the day. To be honest, I don't know how they chose that date. You make a very good point, though. If the idea is to maximize attendance, seems like a Saturday morning or an evening would have been a better idea. That's good feedback I can share back with them.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Just a note, I sent out Tuesday, quarterly report for fourth quarter 2016 activities and a litigation report detailing current pending litigation involving the city. If you have any questions, please contact me.
Thank you. All right, and I do not have a report this evening. So if any council members feel that they need to say where they were or what they did tonight, because it's a special meeting, I will call on you, Mr. Douglas.
Okay, thank you. I just want to tell the council I appreciate your support. Right before Christmas break, I had asked for some discretionary funds to be help facilitate on the toy drive, and you just saw that organization came before us. That was part of the toy drive. I did do a final count with Jesse Martinez and ended up we only need 17 children to fill that gap, boys and girls. So instead of spending $1,100, it ended up being $233. So when those toys were given out, it didn't have from who they were from, but the families and the children that received those gifts are very appreciative and want to thank everyone for supporting them.
Thanks, Steve. Anyone else? Seeing none, if there be no further business to come before the City Council this evening, we are adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Yeah.
Me and